You should be more weird when it comes to gardening. My name is Nicole Burke, and I am definitely weird, and I am definitely weird when it comes to gardening. Today, I'm going to share with you some of the weirdest things I do in the garden that actually work. Welcome back to the Grow Yourself podcast. This is the place to come to learn how to start a garden or how to start a garden business. Today, we're going to talk about upgrading that garden you started by doing some weird stuff. When I first started gardening, I taught myself. This was I guess the internet. Yeah, the internet was definitely around. It was like 2011, but I didn't have much time for reading the internet because I had 4 kids that were tiny and crazy. And so I was spending almost all my time running around, chasing them, changing their diapers, cooking them dinner. And so I kind of learned to garden on the go and by myself outside in the wild with my plants. And I have to say, some of the results were not great, but a lot of the results were incredible. And I think part of it was because I didn't follow any directions. I wasn't, trying to follow all the rules. Instead, I was just having fun. And that's my main message to you today is that you should have more fun in the garden. In fact, that should be the one rule you keep. Gardening has to be fun because the more fun that gardening is for you, the more likely you're going to keep gardening. You're going to not want to skip it. You're not going to feel bad when stuff doesn't work out because the whole point of the garden is for it to be fun. So here's some weird stuff that you can start doing in your garden that I've done in mine that I think make garden more fun and also sometimes actually work better. So the first is that I plant 8 tomato plants on one arch trellis. So if you followed me, if you've seen my book, Kitchen Garden Revival, it's right here on the front photo. Me with an arch trellis underneath just tons of an explosion of tomatoes. So each and every season, I take one arch trellis. Well, I have several, but on an arch trellis, I will plant 8 tomato plants. The way I do this is I have the 2 sides, the 2 ends on one side of the arch, and I plant one tomato plant about 10 inches from that front piece of the arch and then 10 inches behind it. So these 2 tomato plants, even though they're right in a row and they're on the same side of the arch trellis, in soil measurement, they're about 12 to 15 inches apart from one another. And then as they start to grow, I would just vine them up and connect them to the trellis. Then I do the same thing on the other side of that same side of the arch. I'll put another 2 tomato plants. And then on the other side of the garden, in the other garden where that other where the arch trellis ends, I'll do the exact same thing. So 4 plants on one side of the arch, 4 plants on the other, and the results are not weird at all. They're amazing. So you want to grow indeterminate tomatoes if you want to try this out. Indeterminate means vining or that it will continue to produce more and more leaves and growth as it goes through the season. And what happens is these 4 tomatoes on either side, they're just growing up and up and up and over this arch trellis until eventually they meet in the middle and then go past one another. And the results are spectacular. So 90 to 100 days after you plant your tomato plants, you're standing under this incredible thick arch that's got loads of tomatoes just bursting out of the arch. It's so beautiful and prolific, and it is so much easier to do than growing with a tomato cage. So if you're growing tomatoes, be weird like me and put 8 tomato plants on one arch trellis. Tell me in the comments if you think that's what you want to do this year. I'm hoping so. So that's number 1, growing tomatoes on an arch trellis, 8 plants at once for just one arch. The second thing that I've done is I just take 1 packet of seed, particularly lettuce seed. It could be arugula or spring mix, and I just sprinkle it all, dump the whole seed packet in one raised bed, and then I just get tons and tons and tons and tons of lettuce. So I love replacing my groceries with my garden. I don't do that with a lot of things because I'm not like a homesteader, but the one thing I definitely do replace is my lettuce greens. And I do that by taking 1 package of spring mix or arugula, and literally dumping it over the entire bed. Usually it's a 4x4 bed, and then just cutting lettuce after lettuce after lettuce, day after day after day. One way you can help spread out that seed if you're a little worried about this weird thing is you can take the seed, mix it with a little bit of sand, and what that will help you do is as you're spreading it over the soil, the sand you can see the sand a lot more clearly than you can the seed, and so you'll see all the areas of the garden where you've already spread the seed. You won't double up anywhere, and then it also helps disperse the seed a little bit more evenly. So weird thing that I do that actually works. Basically, how does it work? You end up with a ton of lettuce, and I'm talking a ton, just from one seed packet. So don't hold back on that seed packet. Don't just put like 5 or 6 seeds down. Plant the whole darn thing in one raised bed. All right, another thing I love to do is to cover up my raised beds with flowers. So a huge question I get asked almost all the time is, what about pests? What about pests? What about pests? What about pests? And one of the things that, the one thing that is for sure a way to fight pests is with fencing, with physical barriers. And you can definitely do that. But one of the things I prefer to do is living fences or plant barriers. And you can make plant barriers with native plants, with grasses, with flowers. Essentially, you want to block the view of the garden from whatever pest you're trying to prevent it from coming in. So whether those pests are deer or rabbits or squirrels or whatever else, you can definitely put a physical barrier. That's going to be the most for sure. But just an easy first step that maybe isn't as big of a commitment financially or space-wise or even just aesthetically is just to plant some flowers, plant some grasses in between your lawn and your garden. So I've done that for years with flowers, especially like zinnias and sunflowers and lots of herbs, things like that. So I've never read to do that in a book or seen someone else, but it's kind of like, it's like a flower fence. And I just think flower fences are a great, weird idea. So try it out. If you've got pests or if you've got things you're afraid of getting into your garden, try to block the site of the garden with some extra flowers and plants. Plants help plants, right? More plants is more. So let's go. All right. The next weird thing that I do is stuff plants into 1/12 the space recommended. So if you've ever noticed all those, instructions on the back of your plant in your seed packages, they always tell you how far apart to put them from each and every plant. So here's the cool thing I realized. All right. So those directions, first of all, they're not meant for me as a gardener. They're meant more for a farmer. But also, they're just talking about that particular plant. So the assumption is that you're only planting that kind of plant, right? They're just talking about how far apart to space the peppers or how far apart to space the tomatoes. The assumption is you're just planting a ton of tomatoes. You're just planting a ton of peppers. And so what I've learned is that, yes, maybe the peppers need to be a certain space between, but that doesn't mean you can't plant other kinds of plants in between those two pepper plants. You follow me? And so what I started doing way back when, is just packing in as many plants as possible in between all the plants. And essentially, oftentimes, giving each plant 1/12 of the space that is recommended, at least 1/2, right? So never giving the full space recommendation, mostly because I'm not just planting one plant all by itself. I'm planting all these different plants all together, and that allows me to kind of mix and match to create this almost quilt of plants, of lots of different types of plants together. And it makes it able for me to break the plant spacing rules. But there's other benefits to this, hidden benefits to breaking rules. One is that you help with pest protection. So when you don't have just a slew of all the same kind of plants in one bed, then a pest may jump onto one of your plants, but if there's a lot of other different plants around it, chances are they're going to maybe demolish that one plant, but they don't have far they can go to keep eating, right? And so that helps with pest protection. And then also planting this way is going to protect your soil. It's going to keep your soil from drying out and protect the nutrients for that soil as well. So that's another weird thing I do in the garden that actually works. All right, the next thing I do is I hide potatoes in the flower bed. If you've ever grown potatoes, you know sometimes they can have bug issues and beetle issues, and potatoes also take up a lot of room. So I don't like putting potatoes in my raised bed garden. They take up a lot of space that I'd prefer to be for other plants, especially because potatoes in general are pretty easy. You put them in, you grow them, and then you take them out. And so there's not a lot of fuss. There's really not a lot of tending that you have to do. You don't have to do any pruning. And they're just big and bushy, and they also take up a lot of root space. And so I learned after a couple times that potatoes should not go into my raised beds because that real estate is just too prime. I want to save it for the plants that really need the raised bed to grow in. So if you want to grow potatoes, highly, highly recommend doing the weird thing of hiding them inside your flower beds. Next up is planting flowers just for the bad bugs. So the idea here is to plant flowers that attract the bad bugs so that they'll go to those flowers and not go to the plants that you want to protect. So a fancy term for this I found out later after I started doing it is called a trap crop. Essentially, it's like a distraction. It's a what's that called when like you're trying to break in somewhere and you have the like, I can't think. Obviously I'm not a thief either, but like that distraction, right? Where it's like it has nothing to do with the main event, but it gets everyone's attention. That's what we're going for with these plants. So nasturtiums are one of these. Calendula is another. I love planting loads of those two flowers in my garden because they bring the pests to them. Another one is zinnias for those beetles, stink bugs. Yeah. So I do those three flowers, zinnias, nasturtiums, and calendula, knowing full well they're going to attract pests because my desire is that the pests go to those flowers and then leave the rest of my garden alone. Does it work every time? No, but it works a lot of the time. So that's another weird thing that I do that actually works. And then the last thing that I do that's super weird is I don't prune the suckers on my tomatoes. I know. So suckers on a tomato are this part of the growth of the plant that comes up right in the arm of the plant. So if you imagine the main stem of the tomato growing straight up, and then it's got these horizontal leaves, what the plant will do if it's a vining plant is it'll produce what people call a sucker, which is a new shoot that'll come right through the diagonal between the vertical and the horizontal stem. And that thing, believe it or not, called a sucker, could actually grow and become a brand new tomato plant if you pinch it off. And if you follow conventional wisdom, everyone says to pinch the suckers. And I did that for many years, and I ended up with just a few tomatoes. And most of those tomatoes got eaten by squirrels and birds. And so I was very disappointed. And I decided one year to not follow advice and just to leave the suckers. And I found something crazy. Now, I did still prune, but I didn't prune the suckers. I pruned the leaves. So any of those stems that just produce leaves, I cut those off, but I left the suckers. I realized that all those suckers, because they are essentially new plants, each of those produce fruit. And because I grow plants over an arch trellis, there was plenty of room to support all that sucker growth, and I got lots more tomatoes. So what I figured out is that you prune the suckers if you want bigger tomatoes, because you're going to get less, but they'll be bigger. But you keep the suckers if you want more tomatoes. And if you know anything about me, more is more. So I like increasing my chances of winning. I know that squirrels are going to take some, birds are going to take some, somebody else is going to take some. And so I want to be sure there's enough left for me. I prefer more over bigger. And so I leave all the suckers. All right, that's the end of the list of all my weird things I do in the garden that actually work. Another weird thing I do is plant all the time. And I made a calendar to show you how to do it too. You can find it at gardenary.com/calendar. This calendar is awesome. All you got to do is put in 2 dates, for where you live, and I'll tell you all the rest of the dates of when to plant what in your garden. You can get it at gardenary.com/calendar, and at gardenary.com, you can find our upcoming workshops and how to join me live to learn how to start your garden, how to start to upgrade your garden, or how to start a gardening business. If you love this episode, if you love being weird, come and tell me in the comments. Listen, I really think that if we all had more fun in the garden, the world would be a better place because all of us would be happier and we'd all be spending more time in the garden. So don't worry about all those rules, conventional wisdom. It's worth it for some things, but for a lot of things, the garden is really just meant to be a place for you to play and have fun. And like me, be as weird as you want. Thanks for listening to the Grow Yourself podcast. I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for listening to the Grow Yourself podcast. You can keep listening anywhere you love getting your podcast delivered. On Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we are there for you. And if you want to read the notes and get our free resources to help you grow more, you can go to gardenary.com/podcast.